Over the last 4 years, as the Syrian uprising has grown into a full-blown civil war, a more secret conflict has been fought out in cyberspace, with opponents battling for supremacy on the internet front line. So have Syria's electronic armies been drawing up the blueprints for the wars of the future? Juliana Rufus has been to find out.
It's been mere months since the French capital was hit by a wave of ISIL-inspired terrorism, famously targeting the magazine Charlie Hebdo and a Jewish supermarket. But unbeknownst to the world, more strikes were underway. Computer hackers were planning a massive cyber attack. The target, TV5 Monde, a global network of 12 French language channels. April the 8th, 2015, was to be the launch of this new lifestyle channel aimed at the Middle East. Network controller Yves Bigot had spent the day hosting VIPs and ministers. But that very evening, things started going wrong.
I just got a lot of calls and messages all at once. First and most important of all of our 12 TV channels went, dark screen, which is the worst that can happen when you work in television.
TV5's internet sites, apps, and social networks were also down. They were replaced by messages from a cyber caliphate. It seemed clear that the hack was carried out in retaliation against the French military's involvement in the Middle East. Inside the machines, the viruses continued to work, not just to take the channel off air, but to destroy it as a broadcast entity.
This is an attack that was very powerful, that was hugely financed and took huge knowledge of our broadcasting systems.
So how did a TV station in France end up getting taken down by hackers? And did they really have ISIL links? This was the start of our investigation into Syria's cyber war, following a series of events that began 4 years ago when Syrians rose up against President Assad. Early 2011. The Arab Spring is sweeping across the region. In Syria, demonstrators are demanding for President Assad to go. When security forces crack down, activists start filming, such as this event with peaceful demonstrators in a mosque in Damascus.
That day, we went home, we wanted to upload the content, but the internet was slow, and it was slow in all of Syria. We had about 150 attempts, and then it finally got on. I didn't know anyone, but I posted it on the Facebook Syrian Revolution page, and then a journalist contacted me and said, can I have the video? Can you give me higher quality?
Rami Jarrah became one of Syria's best-known media activists. Today he lives in Gaziantep, a town in southeastern Turkey near the Syrian border.
Before, I thought Facebook was stupid. I thought there's no point of it. But if I have a video that shows protests to prove that there are people that are against Assad, when Assad was saying no one's against me, and we just wanted to prove it, it was our only line of expressing ourselves.
Digital media and the internet had become a weapon. As the revolution unfolded, the Assad regime was confronted not only by Syrians.
Greetings to our friends around the world. We are Anonymous, the global resistance to tyranny.
Anonymous hackers accessed Syrian government websites such as the Ministry of Defense and defaced it. Syrian activists would later hack into President Assad's personal email to reveal intimate and embarrassing secrets that made headlines around the world. they were squarely against the regime.
Digital surveillance is common, and upon arrest, many citizens are tortured until they reveal their social network accounts and passwords.
One of the activists detained by the government was Rami Jara.
In my arrest, I spent 3 days where I was tortured, but on the second day, I was taken in for interrogation. Before, there weren't really any questions, there wasn't really anything they want, it was mainly just punishment on, you're protesting against the government. But the questions were, first of all, they wanted my Facebook account.
Inside Syria, the demonstrations had spread and the levels of violence increased. And suddenly the Syrian internet, which had always been painfully slow, improved. The security agencies had realized the role the internet was playing in mobilizing people and started using it against the activists.
They wanted to get the friends. They wanted to know who the friends were, and they wanted to know all the IPs that this account had been accessed from. So if I'd gone into my Facebook account or my Gmail account, if I'd done that from Carbon, from a certain media office, and it's a hidden, it's a secret media office, then they knew where that media office was, and then they would start cracking down on all those houses.
President Assad had found a secret weapon, his very own hacking collective.
The Syrian Electronic Army. Nation. Honor. Loyalty.
They were positioning themselves in clear opposition to Anonymous, targeting not only activists, but also international media organizations perceived to be biased against the regime.
If you approached us even a little bit, then you should await your complete annihilation.
We managed to make contact with a Syrian hacker, whom the Electronic Army tried to recruit. What did they want you to do?
They wanted me to do like the software intelligence of the equipment they had. So I said, okay, I'll think about it. He said we can monitor 8,000 IP addresses per second now. We have this technology.
Our informant tells us not only was the hacker's base extremely well equipped with technology, but also that generous salaries were offered to those who joined. Then he plays us a clip of an Assad speech where the president refers to the Electronic Army as a real army in a virtual war. Assad had clearly understood the importance of cyberwar.
We look at the internet since like first day of hacking. It's a weapon. You have a weapon. You have 2 programming languages. You are a hacker officially if you want to be. You have the whole world. You have all the guns you need.
One of the Syrian Electronic Army's most powerful weapons came from France. It's a so-called Trojan, a software that installs itself into people's computers and spies on them without them ever noticing its presence. Jean-Pierre Leseur, a young French computer whiz kid, started coding this software when he was still in his teens. He called it Dark Comet. He tells me his goal was to make a name for himself, and like other developers at the time, he uploaded the software for free.
C'était plutôt une bonne mentalité. C'était justement se perfectionner dans un domaine qui était en pleine expansion et non pas nuire.
Jean-Pierre says he learned from a newspaper article that Dark Comet was used by the Syrian government against activists.
C'était pas du tout dans une optique d'être utilisé par des gouvernements. Ça c'est quelque chose qui m'a totalement dépassé et les autres aussi, en fait. Ce n'était pas le but et ça, jamais j'aurais pu penser ça car normalement, c'est les militaires qui développent leur propre logiciel et ils n'utilisent pas ce qui existe et en plus qui est déjà gratuit.
Jean-Pierre offers to show me how Dark Comet works. In Syria, pro-Assad hackers had disguised the spying program as a Skype security update to trick activists into clicking it. I've just got a message here which says, sorry, program could not run normally, please try again later.
Yes, exactly. Generally, hackers use fake message to not be suspected.
Okay, so I press OK, as everybody would do.
Yes.
And now it's
And
gone.
then I can see the connection between you and me.
And then what happens next?
I can do anything I want. So as you can see, now I can see your computer entirely. So I can even open something like start menu, go to computer. I control everything. I can do whatever I want. All right? I can open the CD door. I can see that you have a Google account called Julian in Paris 2.
I've just created that, yeah.
You just created, and the password is my secret password. So
So you've basically stolen my password already? But Jean-Pierre can go further. As well as looking at my computer, he can also spy on me. So you can actually watch me on your computer through my camera and I don't even see that it's running?
Exactly. So, hello, I hacked your computer. Hello, I hacked your computer. So you can hear what I'm saying, and I can also press the button capture. Then I can listen what you're saying at real time.
So basically, if I don't know that you're there, and I'm talking into my computer, you can listen to everything.
It's like if your drive was my drive.
So you've completely taken control of my computer,
Absolutely,
basically.
yes. Yes.
But however powerful spying software may be, it only works once the computer user has clicked the malicious link. In response to the ever greater number of attacks, a cybersecurity industry has emerged. Laura Galante is a senior threat intelligence analyst with FireEye. Her research shows a whole new way in which Dark Comet has been used on the battlefield. Laura explains that Syrian opposition fighters were contacted via Facebook or matchmaking sites by seemingly beautiful women.
This is a perfect example of social engineering that is so targeted and narrowly focused that they're almost guaranteed to get their victim. In this case, you have Syrian opposition fighters away from home, probably not a whole lot of contact, right? So with a seemingly interested and flirtatious Skype message, it's a trick that's gone since the beginning of time, right? We're just now seeing it in the network dimension.
Since the early days of anti-Assad protests, Syria has become engulfed in a full-blown war. What FireEye uncovered is how pro-regime hackers accessed 31,000 Skype conversations, many relating to the Battle of Hiberet Ghazaleh, a military encounter in 2013, during which opposition forces lost access to crucial supply routes.
What we saw stolen around that battle and the discussions around it were very granular details around the planning. So 700 or 800 members of the opposition would be involved. The calculation of how many munitions were needed per person, the Excel spreadsheets that laid out the formula for creating that.
The hacked material contains some advanced strategic battle planning.
This, for example, is the pen markings that one of the opposition victims is drawing onto what looks like a Google Map kind of phone snapshot that he uploaded into a Skype conversation while talking to another victim. And as these two opposition members discuss what the offensive line's going to look like, what's this battle going to look like, they're planning for the kind of very tactical, take this hill, move around this corner, that type of level of direction that would be needed to plan a successful operation.
It is clear that since the early days of the revolution, pro-Assad hackers have become much more capable. On the Syrian Electronic Army website, the group not only brags about hacking opposition military leaders, but also the countries who support them. Websites belonging to governments and ministries in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey have all been hacked, and diplomatic and strategic secrets were revealed. Turkey, in particular, has been a target. It has long supported the Syrian rebellion, and it's home to Syrian activists and fighters. we've come to the border region to meet a rebel communications specialist. He's taking us to a hilltop where Syria is laid out before us.
No, this is FSA.
Okay, so those are your people.
Yes.
Cyber warfare may be on the rise, but there is still information to be gleaned by using traditional radio scanners to intercept military communications between Syrian government forces.
Sometimes we can find the regime frequencies and we can expect some of their plans.
But sometimes you get information that gives you a military advantage.
Yes, sometimes, especially when there's a special operation.
But suddenly we're listening to altogether different voices.
This may be ISIS. Maybe this one is ISIS. Because they have different accents than the Syrian.
They're foreign fighters.
Yes, I think so. Yes, this one is for ISIS. They use security codes, and it's not so easy to understand what are they doing.
So ISIS are more security conscious.
Yes, they are.
It is here in Kilis that many Western jihadis crossed into Syria to go and fight with ISIL, attracted by the group's vast and sophisticated social media output. Earlier this year, this brought Anonymous back on the scene with a rather grandiose message.
ISIS, we will hunt you, take down your sites, accounts, emails, and expose you.
Anonymous published over 900 ISIL Twitter accounts, websites, and emails, leading to their closure.
You will be treated like a virus, and we are the cure.
But it is from inside Syria that a much less known and far more courageous digital protest is carried out. Activists who once confronted President Assad now live in ISIL-controlled territory. I have arranged to meet a group called Raqqa is being slaughtered silently, or RSS. Under huge risk, they record images of daily life and smuggle them out via a tightly controlled system of encrypted servers. Their goal is to bring media attention to the ISIL-controlled areas where almost all journalists have been arrested.
الشباب عم يصور من الشارع لأنه نحن عم ننشر داعش عم تقول ما في أي إعلاميين بالرقة، فنحن عم نصورها من الشوارع الرئيسية بالرقة لحتى ننشرها على الإنترنت لنثبت عكس كلامهم.
To prevent ISIL from gaining information about the size of the reporter or the time of the day, they blanked out his shadow. An ISIL patrol van passes by, and the reporter is nearly caught. The group's response upon publication of the clip was immediate.
لما نشرنا الفيديو داعش فورا نشر صورة من التويتر ل5 شاشات عم يدرسوا فيها الفيديوين. نحن نشرنا فيديو ثاني بهذاك اليوم عم يدرسوا فيها الفيديوين، محاولين انه يعرفوا اي ساعة تصور، شو طول الشب، يحاولوا يعرفوا اي تفاصيل لحتى يعرفوا مين المصور اللي صور الفيديو.
RSS work is incredibly risky. When the campaign was launched, ISIL arrested 70 people simply for changing their Facebook picture to the RSS logo. And last year, ISIL executed one of the campaign's founders, Al-Mu'tas Bilal Ibrahim.
احنا ما بنحارب داعش بشكل مباشر لانها داعش، ما بنحارب النصرة لانها نصرة، يعني ما بنحارب الفصيل لانه هو هذا الفصيل، لا، نحن عم نحارب فكر متطرف دخل المجتمع السوري وهو دخيل على المجتمع السوري ما جزء منه.
Back in Gaziantep, we have arranged to meet Rami Jara again. Since he's left Syria, he's set up a radio network to promote civil society.
So this is Studio One for Radio Anna, and we have a program now called Man Nas with the People. It's an hour and a half, but we're interviewing a judge throughout who defected from the Syrian government. This is now being broadcasted live.
It broadcasts from rebel areas into regime-held territory.
If there wasn't any media, then the authority now in Syria, in any area, can do what it wants, and there's no one to talk about it. We don't see our station itself becoming this mighty power, but we think that it will encourage other groups.
Up on the roof, Rami Jara and his Radio Anna crew are assembling a new internet-based transmission system that they plan to secretly smuggle across the border. Do you think the cyber element of the Syrian conflict is going to be a blueprint for future conflicts to come?
Definitely. I think that the Syrian government made a very clever decision. They took it very seriously. They weren't advanced before the conflict. But just after the conflict began, the uprising began, we could see the difference. We could see how they advanced themselves. And it was obvious that they were getting help.
What do you think should happen to foreign companies who came and supplied the regime with that expertise?
I think they should be dealt with very firmly. I think the company should be banned from selling in that region altogether or something. There should be some sort of consequence.
And there are people determined to ensure that there will be consequences. Paris-based human rights lawyer Clémence Bectard has prepared a case against the French network intelligence company Cosmos. The allegation is that Cosmos was planning to help supply Assad's secret police with a cyber monitoring setup called Asphodor.
It's a whole system composed of hardware and software, and this program enabled Syrian intelligence services having a monitoring facility in their compounds to be able to monitor in real time all the electronic communication being exchanged in Syria using keywords. So you have access to all the IP addresses, and then you can identify from whom it's coming, from where it's coming.
Bectard accuses Cosmos of being complicit in acts of torture, saying its technology helped track down activists. But the company denies this, saying it pulled out of the sale before the operational phase. The case has now gone before the Paris Court's War Crimes Unit, where the investigating judge has made Cosmos an assisted witness, thereby forcing the company to speak in court and under oath. Bectard hopes that the next step will be a formal indictment.
What we want to achieve is to raise the question of accountability of these companies. Can such companies, such as Cosmos but others, can consider selling such material? Can they do so without being held accountable, without any kind of regulation, any kind of control, and continue to sell these types of equipments to regimes which use them to better repress human rights defenders and activists?
Back at TV5 Monde, the investigation has taken a surprising turn. French officials are silent, but credible reports from private analysts say the attack came from a Russian hacking group, APT-28, pretending to be ISIL. Given the Russian government's closeness to the Assad regime, this is not at all impossible. Do you think we're entering a new era of hacking and electronic warfare?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That we are the example for the general public to understand that there's a new war that's going on now, which is a cyber war, which means that your territory is not attacked by soldiers or by tanks, but that there's a war in the cyberspace going on.
As the Syrian revolution descended into a brutal war, the rest of the world watched on from a position of safety. But cyber war respects no borders.
فإحنا ما بيهمونا وين متواجدين لأنه هن أساساً شغلهم كله على النت والتهكير على النت، فمن وين ما كان هو يعتبر عدو لأنه هو ما بيهمنا المكان اللي هو فيه، من العمل اللي عم يقوم به.
Thousands of attacks take place around the world each day. Most are aimed at commercial targets, but the Syrian conflict is a likely blueprint for the way future wars will be played out.